Bwipo trying to stay alive. He's barely hanging on as he flashes out. Peyz trying to chase him down. It's first blood back over to the Ash. This will be pretty important here for FlyQuest. Knock up onto Chovy. Not enough damage to take him down. And now Busio's Cougar Food. Canyon shows up for a punish. Snowball, but considering he's level 7, he can still bumper through that knockoff. But nice shockwave coming out from Quad. Surely they get this kill. No way, Chovy. Bwipo's gonna be your target here next as the shockwave doesn't do much. Peyz gets the kill on Bwipo. Gen.G just cutting them down like flies.
It is Gen.G that wins game 2, and did the players get played? Because if you cast your mind back to HLE and Doran trying to teleport against the Nunu and failing, here the Kassadin negated the ult coming out of Nunu. Gen.G watched that game and said, "You are not playing me, FlyQuest."
They actually would have had that Kassadin ready, I think, if they were going to see the Nunu, which we ended up seeing in this game. But I would say I've also sufficiently come off the high of game 1.
I can see it.
Yeah, I think we're a little more level now after this. And you could tell that FlyQuest was afraid of the Kassadin, so they tried multiple times early on to not let this guy get gold and end up backfiring.
Yeah, first here, the dive from Busio, trying to pressure. Again, the Q from Kassadin also with the magic shield. And then here, Inspired also trying to go for it. They have the shockwave combo, but cancels the ultimate, and then he barely gets out. And again, both of these kills are into a mega scaling side laner. One of the most dangerous tools that we mentioned after the previous game that we thought Gen.G can use to just pull apart FlyQuest. So that's why FlyQuest are really scared of the Kassadin. It's just that then they ended up accelerating the Kassadin and giving a bunch of free money. So it got very scary very quickly.
And especially once he got that lead, you could see immediately like, all right, Chovy, you go off to a side lane. We're not going to deal with you anymore. You kind of just win out on your own up there. And when you already had this Jax that was off to a great lead as well, thanks to those early lane swaps, I think he just spelled absolute disaster for Fly. And that's why they kept kind of throwing everything in the kitchen sink, trying to make it work, but it just all fell apart for them.
Yeah, we were watching the game and we were thinking, oh, is this just Gen.G waking up? Is that reducing it too much?
I think it is reducing it a little bit. I would say that this was the snapback from game 1, and I'd say FlyQuest actually just played a lot worse. Like they put themselves under pressure in this game to slow down the Kassadin, and that actually, to me, made them play too fast. It wasn't just those dives. Bwipo took some bad trades in the lane swap, which then made him get in dive range for the original dive that set him behind in the game as well. And then Gen.G did also play very well, but that was after they'd gotten the lead. Like the first 3 positive plays, I'd say, would be the dive onto Bwipo and then the 2 dives onto Kassadin.
I think also just great adaptation in the draft coming through from Gen.G as well. They end up banning the Seraphine and also then first picking the Ashe, which meant that they had a ton of control on that bottom side of the map and then being able to set themselves up for great success. Also, they're kind of evolving on what the lane swaps have been, because when we've seen them the last 2 games, it has been, hey, we're going to go, we've traditionally seen at Worlds so far has been, I'm going to move my support down to that lane that you are over-indexed on, and we're going to have my top laner TP in.
He's not on his phone now, by the way.
Yeah, he's fully awake now. But you're not going to TP in. You're going to have your top laner TP in and 2v4, you'll hold off the dive. But instead now we're seeing that they're actually holding Kiin in the lane, and he's just being able to pick up all this farm solo, so he's actually getting out to an early lead when it comes to that 1v1, and then he got to bully Bwipo for a huge amount of that early stage.
And just big props to Gen.G for being also such a creative team. You know, we mentioned earlier them pulling out the Twitch, but pulling out the Kassadin here, hadn't seen it since 2021 at Worlds.
And Spring for Chovy this year as well in 2024. So
only Chovy's ever like 2nd Kassadin pick, so them cooking as well in response, I feel like is a nice, little raise in the ante for this series that makes the draft just so much fun to follow.
I like it. I did request something, and I promise I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay.
I just wanted to pull up our reaction right after game 1. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to do that just because I wanted to, talk about...
You got some good spin on that thing, Shocks.
That's some serious wagon on that thing.
Listen,
Figure wave.
so I wanted to talk about it because it kind of, I think, also embodies how FlyQuest must have felt after that game 1, right? You are flying really, really high.
Yeah.
You are so happy with your inventive draft. You have pushed the game forward. You have won these crucial fights. And then you get kind of knocked down just like we did a little bit, right? In terms of how that game went, because it wasn't really close.
Yeah.
And I want to approach the next game from that vantage point now, because do we think that game 1 was a fluke? Or do we think that the adaptations are going to push this into a lengthy best-of-5?
So, do I think FlyQuest is now the favorite? No. Do I think that they have a chance of winning the series? I actually do. And I think that the result of that game isn't because FlyQuest or Gen.G downloaded the draft. Like, I don't think Kassadin Nidalee is good. I'll just go ahead and say that. It is good when you get 5 plates top lane because the rest of your map is snowballing and there's 2 failed dives on you. Yeah, it's going to be good. But when their pivot is Kassadin, like, I don't actually think that's this giga trump card that they have in the series. And I think FlyQuest has way more picks still to come.
Especially when you move to the blue side. Because now you have to ban Aurora, you have to ban Yone on the red side. You can't get rid of the Seraphine, the Ivern, you can't first pick the Ashe. There's a ton of adaptation come through. The fact you picked up that red side win is so crucial for FlyQuest in this series.
And I would like to bring it back to the gameplay as well. You'll notice a very big difference in the gameplay from the FlyQuest side from game 1 to game 2. In game 1, their mechanics were on point. You know, they were pretty clean, honestly. But game number 2, as we mentioned with a lot of these dives, some big mistakes there. So I think locking in here to the next game, looking forward in this series. I am kind of still filled with hope, but this entire time we've expected Gen.G to absolutely blast them. Okay, so
yeah, and I'm a little bit hopeful for FlyQuest because it feels like the thought process is correct in game 2. The execution was slightly off. And I'm more nervous when I see teams who don't have the thought process correct and then are messing up on how they execute as well. So I think FlyQuest are going to come back swinging in this game.
All right. We have believers who think FlyQuest is going to come back swinging. What do you think, Captain Flowers?
Thank you very much, Shocks.
I thought you were going to show when we were literally jumping.
Yeah.
Keep going.
All right, I don't know if Covy's still talking or I'm still talking. Whatever. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for our third game here in this best of 5. Gen.G has tied it up, but now here's the big difference. We're heading into the third draft with FlyQuest on the blue side. This not only opens them up from Yone Aurora jail, but it also allows them to first pick Ashe.
Exactly. So it's so interesting because Ashe has become really, really important throughout the quarterfinals, but also I'm just really not sure what Gen.G is going to ban on red side, because if I'm them, I think I would way rather give over a Yone or an Aurora than I would an Ivern or a Seraphine or these picks that you're less familiar with that FlyQuest really specialize in. So I'm so curious to see what the priority is for Gen.G. Do you just ban on red side like you would against a normal team where you have to do Aurora and Yone and then +1? Or do you maintain those off-meta bans that they've been using against FlyQuest? Because usually FlyQuest likes to stay on red.
Yeah, my anticipation is that FlyQuest is going to try and prioritize that Ashe, just so I wouldn't be surprised to see it banned away from the side of Gen.G. The Skarner priority is also pretty interesting to me. Game 1, we didn't really see it have a huge amount of impact, and I think that was a great demonstration of how Xin Zhao is supposed to work into Skarner. The fact that you're stronger early, you can fight better early, just makes a lot of sense. And if you can play to that strength, then you can really shut down the Skarner. And I think that that's a way in which FlyQuest can look to try and find advantages in the draft. The thing that does concern me is this mid matchup, because the truth is that while game 1, the Seraphine was a great neutralizer, I think that in game 2, Quad was able to successfully punish, get the flash out from Chovy, do a good job in the laning phase. But I think that if you give Chovy a winning matchup, he will just run away with it.
He will Chovy it, for sure.
He will.
And FlyQuest has reported some peripheral issues to League officials, so that is the delay on stage. They're trying to figure out what those peripheral issues are, if there needs to be something replaced, or if we're going to be all good here in a moment. But I'm just super curious for you, Vetty. So you're saying you think that they need to ban Ashe on red side, which I kind of agree, but then what bans do you drop? Do you let through Yone Aurora? Do you keep banning, Ivern Renekton? Do you worry about the Seraphine? Like, that's the big question to me, and that's what's so interesting coming into this draft.
Yeah, if I'm Gen.G, I would say that FlyQuest doesn't play Aurora. That would be my instinct. So I would actually be willing to leave both up in the set of, we know you play Yone. Alternatively, you could just ban Yone. You could then also ban the Ashe, and then maybe you also ban away Skarner/Ivern, depending on what you think is a bigger problem, and then say, if you play Aurora, go ahead, show it to us, because we want to give that test. And if he does pick Aurora, there's the world where Chovy can then respond with an Orianna, which is a really great matchup into the Aurora. and then it becomes a game of team fighting, which I think Gen.G is more than happy to have. I think FlyQuest need to draft in a way that gives them options where they either neutralize the early game or they can find advantages in the early game.
And for me, what I want to see from FlyQuest is more than anything just winning 5v5. I feel like they've had all their big successes just playing around enchanters oftentimes, right? Like playing with Ivern and playing with Seraphine. I think that creates the advantage that they need for the 5v5s. If they can play stable early, they can take over in that 5v5. And another update here, tournament officials are bringing out Busio's backup mouse. So there was an issue with his mouse. They're going to have to actually replace that. So that is what we will be waiting for. Of course, he may need to make sure the settings and everything is good on the new mouse when they do bring that out. But hopefully it will not take too long.
I mean, a mouse is somewhat important in the game of League of Legends, so I'm glad that we're getting that issue resolved. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, a lot of the priority is going to be on this draft, how things will play out. We saw two very different games. Game 1, like, I don't want to sugarcoat it. If you have just joined us, spoiler alert, we're in Game 3, and it is not a 2-0 series for Gen.G.
I'm seeing something building here.
Yeah, you may have had your expectations surprised, and you wouldn't be the only one. But FlyQuest, they didn't, like, find a miracle team fight. They, from start to finish, they dominated Game 1. It was a well-executed game plan. They secured early objectives. They won every single fight, and they only made a single mistake in the whole game, where they were able to then bounce back and close it out. Then Game 2, Flowers and I were joking about it, where Gen.G suddenly said, hey, all right, time to take the gloves off, time to get serious. They locked in the Nidalee Canyon, and they came back swinging. So let's see how we see in Game 3.
Okay, already, here's something to take note of. FlyQuest banning the Aurora on the blue side. Gen.G's first ban is what we were talking about, the Ashe.
Yep, so it is going to be the Ashe, and now it gets really tricky because they have to drop something. So what are they going to drop is the question. Ivern, I maintain, I think is a super smart ban. I do think it is enchanters that are really working so well for FlyQuest. And this pick in general is really powerful for Inspired, but it still now means, do you ban Seraphine? Do you ban Yone? Do you ban neither?
I think they're going to ban Seraphine. I think that they're not afraid to give the Yone because I think that Chovy will have an answer to it.
Yeah, I think it's smart. You know, make FlyQuest beat you on meta picks, and I think that is the path to success here for Gen.G. You know, if there is to be one. Obviously, they are still heavily favored, and it is going to be Yone, so they are still worried about that Yone, so it is interesting. You know, I definitely agree with you. I would be more concerned about giving over something like that Seraphine, but maybe FlyQuest feels like, hey, that cat is out of the bag. Like, we can't actually trick them with this twice.
But this also confirms that Aurora is not something that FlyQuest plays, which may become problematic for them as the series continues. Regardless, the Skarner is going to be locked in kind of as we expected, with that making its way through the draft. You can see that spirits are still high on the FlyQuest side, and why shouldn't they be? 1-1 means that we're guaranteed 2 more games.
Yeah. And you can look at it, you know, kind of glass half empty. It's like, we got this terrible draw. Or you can look at it as this positive thing where you have an opportunity to take down one of the very best teams in Worlds. The point of going to Worlds is to face international competition, is to try to test yourselves against the very best players in the world. And there's no better opportunity than against Gen.G.
And I mean, we've heard plenty in the past, specifically from Bwipo, about that, wanting to consider himself elite among the top laners in the world, measuring himself against what they can do, setting the bar with these guys who have established themselves with world titles, with top worlds placements, and to go up against a team like this, that's your chance, exactly as you're saying. Gen.G going to respond to that Skarner with a Sejuani in the jungle, so 2 big meatballs jungling in this 3rd game, and it will be Peyz on the Ezreal.
Now, Peyz doesn't have an extensive Ezreal history. He's got about 19 games across his career.
All right.
But I will say, we've seen LPL Ezreals, and I'll tell you now that LCK Ezreals really aren't that much different.
So it's not looking balanced.
Yeah, it certainly is not. The Kai'Sa are going to be the response, a very standard one. Usually the idea being that Ezreal can't punish Kai'Sa's relatively weak early game, and you get to a point where once you get the static shiv, you have a lot of wave clear available. The denial with the Rakan pick as well, because you know how nicely it pairs up alongside, means that FlyQuest likely looking for a lane swap once more because they don't want to have to play into the 2 versus 2. But you could argue that because of Ezreal's early game strength, maybe they're quite happy to play that matchup. Okay. We will be seeing Bwipo having to blind pick his top lane. I wonder if we'll see a return to something like the Cassante for him. As the Silas being hovered and locked in now for Chovy.
Sylas does like the Rakan ultimate. You can also kind of have a get-out-of-jail-free card, an emergency panic button if you steal the Kai'Sa ulti. Skarner ulti also has some big playmaking potential there too.
So I'm really interested now, do Gen.G worry about something like a Tristana coming through, and are they going to be looking to ban that out? Because, you know, a lot of these kind of ADC matchups are one of the things that a lot of people are saying kept Sylas out of that meta, right? You know, that really could be a struggle for him in that mid lane. You also have to really be concerned about what champions are we going to pick that have ultimates that are going to be too powerful to give over.
The Olaf ban does suggest that Gen.G is thinking about a K'Sante themselves, or at least something relatively tanky, and we know that it is one of Bwipo's go-to top lane picks.
This is also something that Bwipo plays into Renekton, something they could be looking for as a standard pick like that. You know, Bwipo definitely comfortable playing these style of champs, but they have the same read that you do. As soon as the Olaf is banned, FLYQUEST says, you know what? You can't have K'Sante then.
Yeah, they know that Kiin likes to play K'Sante. They know that Gen.G likes to put him on the K'Sante. Why not just take that out of the pool? I'm really curious too, because you're not only talking about the Tristana being able to be an answer to Sylas to keep him out of mid lane, but if we remember FlyQuest and them kind of coming into this position of power in summer in the LCS, quad on 80 carries, inspired on AP junglers, that was like this secret sauce. They were really good when that was the meta. Obviously, Skarner doesn't fall into that like Lilia, Zyra brand bucket, but quad definitely knows how to pilot those types of champs, but that's not going to be the ban. Orianna, banned out by Gen.G.
Exactly, and Orianna just has a strong combo with the Rakan, obviously worried about that potential engage, and can be a difficult matchup here early on for Chovy on that Sylas. Again, it is one of those melee versus range matchups that you can struggle in the early levels on. FlyQuest really thinking through this final ban, and it is going to be Rel, so taking away some of the powerful engage that Lehends is very well known for.
Well, there's that Renekton that you talked about as well, going to be locked in for Kiin.
Okay.
A relatively safe blind, so how will Bwipo now look to respond? Sometimes we've seen the Urgot
I was going to say, yeah.
But I don't love it here.
Oh, Vladimir would be really interesting. There have been so much talk about this W Max Grass Vladimir that had really been making the rounds in solo queue. But I think Urgot is more likely, and I wouldn't be shocked to see this locked in here. Bwipo wants to play his style. Urgot's going to be it. And this is going to be really interesting here to see how he performs in these early levels.
I just don't like it into Ezreal, just because of how long range the champion is. They don't have enough lockdown. Now, I'd love to see something like a Kassadin response here. Coming out from quad, I'm expecting something like the Cassio.
Oh, Zeri is another one of the big AD mids that he'd love to play, so I wouldn't be shocked. Okay. It is an AD carry mid. It's not the Tristana that I was mentioning, but this is one of Quad's picks that FlyQuest really developed a tremendous amount of faith in him playing. It's also an ultimate that's not really that good to give over there to Chovy. Mostly he's looking at the Rakan ult. I think that is that Primo one, and potentially Skarner, you know, maybe situationally the Urgot. But I think FlyQuest have a really strong draft. I think they are very powerful in the 5v5. The Braum, though, great answer against the double AD carry, and even Urgot that kind of acts almost like a pseudo AD carry in some ways, to be able to block so much of that damage, protect Peyz, and make him a nightmare to get to.
The thing that I'm looking at for the Zeri, though, when we think of all the times that Zeri has dominated and run the meta, she often does the best when she has a pocket enchanter. Think back to your Lulus, think back to your Yumis, and while Rakan does offer the ability to buffer up a little bit, it's not on the same level. So it's up to Quad to pilot this not just correctly, but without help.
Gen.G have an incredibly powerful top side with the Sejuani pairing nicely alongside both the Sylas and the Renekton. And the concern for me comes from the fact that they're kind of two front-to-back comps, and AD carry comps love the idea of multiple melees trying to run into you because you're the one closing the gap. But I do have concerns around what backline threat is there really on to Peyz' Ezreal. I feel like he's going to be given so much space, the Braum is going to offer so much peel, and while Rakan is typically a good pick into the Braum is going to work very effectively at mitigating a lot of this front-to-back teamfight damage that FlyQuest is going to be looking to leverage.
I absolutely agree. It's going to be a struggle to get to Ezreal, but the question is, do they actually have to get to the Ezreal? Can you just kill frontline? Can you kite back and play it in that way? Because if you can burst someone down, all of a sudden, there's 4 melee champs over here that are in this melee with Urgot, who gets an ultimate, who gets a kill, who fears everyone up, creates space, creates time for them to make something happen. You know, I do think that is a way that FlyQuest could potentially win this, and very interesting stuff. Quad is actually playing Grasp Zeri here, which has been kind of been taking the meta by storm, but I have not seen this particular champion combo.
Yeah, ever since the ranged nerfs to fleet footwork, Grasp has become the, I want to make sure that I can stay in lane, I have that extra regeneration healing power to get through the early game, scale up to becoming that late game monster. This is FlyQuest's first time on blue side in this series, tied up 1-1. against Gen.G. This series so far has been delivering. I'm hoping this third one continues with the excitement. Chovy on the Silas, huge playmaker champion on that one, and we know that Chovy can make things happen.
I mean, Chovy's always been a joy to watch, but in terms of international stigma, Chovy yet to make a World Finals. Since joining Gen.G, the highest accolade they've achieved has been the World Semifinals, which when you think about him as a player, like, is...
And the MSI title.
I mean, yes, of course. I mean, that's the thing, right? Of course, securing that MSI title this year was supposed to be the beginning of the golden road for Gen.G. Falling short in the LCK, denying that was, I mean, frustrating for many LCK fans, but the expectation is, I literally saw a post the other day of, surely this is the freest worlds for Gen.G now. All they have to do is knock out FlyQuest. They have a winning matchup against T1 pretty much in the last recent history.
So free, just beat T1, the defending world champions, and then BLG,
so free,
you know?
Right? But like, that sentiment, I think, rings true. Coming into this tournament, Gen.G were considered a tournament of favorites. You look at their future opposition, they beat BLG, I think twice at MSI, and they did it in the winners final and then the grand final, and then with their forward opposition, they have a winning record. So, like, that's the type of expectation and pressure that's on Gen.G's shoulders. So the fact they even dropped a game to FlyQuest will already raise some questions, but they should now be looking at the remainder of this series as we're looking to reassert ourselves, we're looking to dominate this series. This is going to now, from this point, be a 3-0, and we'll forget the game won't ever happen. So FlyQuest interrupting that at all maybe just adds to the pressure that currently sits on Gen.G's shoulder.
I mean, there's definitely massive expectations for them. You know, a lot of people look at Chovy as the best mid laner in the world, and maybe the best player ever to not win Worlds, right? And that comes with a lot of those expectations. As you say, you know, people are saying, not, wow, what a great year for Gen.G. They won MSI. They're saying, all right, are you going to win Worlds or not, bro? It's kind of crazy how high those expectations become. And if they do indeed win Worlds, this team will end at the end of the year 49-3 in series. It would be both an MSI win and a Worlds win. They would only be one brick short of the golden road, so to speak, that one Game 5 against HLE. So, yes, they dropped the Game 1. Yes, you could question that, whatever, but they still have the chance to do what I think would be the most impressive year of pro play in league history.
Yeah, Gen.G, before this, like, we're talking about a team that before this previous summer had won the last 4 LCK titles all in a row, but yet their international performances never quite hit that same level of glory. And honestly, coming into this year, I was in that same boat where I expected domestic dominance and international shortcoming. And then they won MSI. Now, they're coming into Worlds looking incredibly strong. They already got their vengeance against HLE for the finals by then beating them in that best of 3 to go straight into the 3-0 spot here in quarters. I think there's still just sky-high expectations.
Absolutely. Quick update here. So Busio, again, having issues with the peripheral, unfortunately. That replacement mouse has come through, but having issues as soon as he got in the game. So that is why we are again paused. They're going to be trying to figure that out. But I fully agree with you, Clayton, and I do think it's interesting sometimes how the goalposts have shifted for success for Chovy. Because for a long time, they're like, oh, you're really good, but you haven't won LCK. And then he wins LCK a bunch, and they're like, well, you're really good, but you haven't won MSI. And then he wins MSI, and it's like, well, you're really good, and you've won MSI, but have you won Worlds?
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right. And it's an unfortunate reality of being from the LCK, right? You got to remember they're the most dominant region internationally for the longest time. And you're also in the home of FLYQUEST, right? And so whenever the conversation comes up, like, oh, Chovy, the best mid laner, maybe even the best player in the world right now, at the back, someone's going to shout, hey, but what about FLYQUEST? He literally won Worlds last year. And it's just kind of be like, okay, I see your argument. But, like, it doesn't matter. It's fascinating, the kind of duality, because everyone acknowledges and respects Chovy for the player that he is. There is no person that you'll run into, and if you ask them, how do you rate Chovy? He's somewhere in the top 3, like, in terms of player quality, regardless. And ultimately, it's just a matter of time where people are saying, like, surely he'll win a world championship. But because that single title is missing from his trophy case, there will always be that small asterisk that looms over his head where, like, that title of best is always going to be somewhat under debate.
And, you know, we're talking about Chovy and the LCK and the quality of that region and how it's just always dominated in general. But even against North America specifically, I believe the number coming into this Worlds of all-time games, North America versus Korea, it's like 15-85 favoring Korea. So we'll see.
More about the quality of games than the quantity.
Well, we
There were
definitely
15
didn't have the
really
quantity.
good,
Okay.
really good games.
Well, hey.
Those 85 games, those were like no-name brand. Those were nice games.
Well,
Who cares
FlyQuest
about those
added
games?
another one to the total here to kick off
That was
this
a
series.
pristine game.
We'll see if game number 3 can be another tally there on that long, long road to redemption for North America against Korea at international competition. FlyQuest, they've got control over the mid lane here nice and early as Quad will crash the wave into Chovy's turret, but it's Lehends and Peyz getting the early push in bottom lane as Bwipo with that Urgot, very, very deadly in the 1v1's top side, so controlling that push as well.
And I really want to see what Inspired can get done, because you have the push in mid, you have the push in top, and that gives him some more freedom to move around the map here. Quad slowly chipping away on Chovy. Did take one tower shot, and really that's only the return damage he has taken. But bot lane, it has been all Gen.G pushing in. You can see they're stacking up this huge wave, and they're going to look for a dive here. This would be devastating if FlyQuest died.
Massu and Busio, they got to play this one right. Canyon going in. They already popped the heal at the very start from Gen.G. Busio taking a ton of damage here. Canyon's getting locked up. Lehends eats another turret shot as Bwipo goes forward. Canyon's still trying to get away. The Urgot not going to get a kill on anybody as now Bwipo's in danger. Peyz shifts forward. Busio and Massu still fighting, still firing. Double knockout. First blood over to Massu. Double kill over to Massu. FlyQuest, play it better.
What a counter engage there from Busio, punishing the shift from Peyz. A great TP comes in from Bwipo. It looked like he was going to get killed, though, as he TP'd in. He flashed forward. You had to think he went too far. But FlyQuest in the 3v3 make it happen. And the wave is being pushed towards Busio, and it's slow stacking, so Bwipo can get back up there and catch us. Let's watch it one more time.
So the commitment from Canyon was way too deep. Like, he's stuck underneath the tower. Chain CC, they don't quite have the damage, and he's forced to flash away as the TP comes in from Bwipo. At this point, you're thinking, oh, Bwipo might be in danger. Good body blocking comes in from Massu, but that E from Peyz to reposition ended up being his death sentence. The Ignite was held onto. The barrier comes through.
What an engage.
The double knock-up into Q. Beautiful follow-up from Busio as 700 gold goes into the pocket of Massu.
Beautiful redemption for Busio. Isaac, you talked about it in game number 1. The struggles that he had during MSI, the comeback during summer, and now to be the enabler of the early double kill from Massu against Gen.G 4 minutes into the game, just huge.
It's a fantastic TP from Bwipo supporting the team. And that is the fate that they have in this NA talent bot lane here. Massu and Busio. The team knows if we get Massu in a position, he can win us games. They have that confidence in him, and Bwipo is willing to make sacrifices to his own game to enable this young AD carry.
Good little trade there from Chovy in the mid lane to try and push out that wave. Quad, though, should be able to set up a decent freeze. The stacked wave that you were talking about earlier, Azael, now going to be caught as Inspired hovering around the bot side of the map. That's the other consequence of that failed play from Canyon. Inspired has been full clearing the whole time. This man, for those that don't know, loves clearing camps. He
The
did it in
CEO
EU.
of Full Clear.
Full clears, yes. He did it in the EU. He immediately went over to NA and did the same thing. And if you try and make that haphazard play, you aren't able to execute. Inspired is going to punish you for it. And now look at that. Level 5 completed for him. He's back out onto the map with a giant spell.
It's big advantages here so far for FlyQuest. You can see, though, Chovy trading well with Quad in mid lane. Getting a little bit dicey as they both are getting a bit low on health. You also have to wonder, could this TP get punished from Bwipo? If he gets ganked without that TP, if you die without that TP, all of a sudden plates go over. All of a sudden you lose all the minions. The wave becomes very difficult. So Canyon still has an opportunity to try to have an effect on this map, but he also knows Inspired is ahead of him, and if Inspired is there when he goes for that gank, another play goes bad in the early game, Gen.G could be in a lot of trouble.
Look at the blue buff right now. Bit of an invade coming out from Canyon when his top laner just reset. I think his goal there was just to get a bit of information.
Yeah.
Lehends using this opportunity to roam mids as the grub started off. Good awareness from Canyon, knowing that Quad wants to go back to base, doesn't have the TP available. Lehends is already here to the play. Chovy has the power, but they dive bot.
Bottom lane, Peyz at 200 HP. Massu has to get rid of the turret aggro now as Peyz is still fighting, but it ain't gonna matter. Acathian Rain buries Peyz underneath the tier 1 turret, and FlyQuest claim a 3rd kill for their marksman.
A crucial set of sequences happened on the map. While Gen.G gained the advantage on the grub, they did so by bringing Lehends up. FlyQuest needed to make a cross-map happen, and they rightly do it. We talked in game 1 about playing with the nameplates off. They didn't look at Peyz's names, they just saw an Ezreal that should have died.
Bwipo in trouble as Canyon trying to make his presence known up here on the top side. Bwipo's locked up, beat down. Canyon gets Gen.G on the board.
And they get that huge punish now on Bwipo with no teleport here. He's going to lose a lot. Kiin is going to get this wave in. He's going to get likely at least one of these turret plates. And he's going to be in a pretty big advantage off of that.
Inspired making his way back towards the top side, should be able to tick over to level 6 as a result of this. Busio making his way towards mid as well. With the grubs gone, typically you'd look for those neutral objective trades, but Inspired not really been in a position to play for that dragon just yet. He has to cover the top side of the map. He's going to catch that whole wave, and as you rightly said, Azel, the top side of the map now a big advantage for Gen.G, with Massu finding himself with a 1.1k gold lead.
Yep, that was always the risk. When you TP down to bot, you die without that teleport, you are in trouble. So Bwipo sacrifices for the team, but it's not nearly as dire as it was in that last game. The situation that he was in was so much more difficult, and especially against a Jax who really does scale incredibly well. Bwipo's still in it, and Massu has been set up for success. This young Canadian AD carry trying to make his name known on the international scene. Has talked so much about, how the support of his family has really meant the world to him. He comes here, he has so much backing from his family. They're always watching the games. They're always sending him supporting messages, calling him after the games, and he wears that necklace as a reminder of his uncle, of his family, and of their home.
3-1, 1,000 gold lead for FlyQuest, despite the fact that, like we've already touched on, no neutral objectives to their name just yet. 2 minutes until we get the next set of grubs. The first Drake being a Chem Drake doesn't have a lot of individual value itself, and it looks like neither one of the teams are super concerned with it right now. Canyon is on this bottom part of the map. He is level 6. However, it looks like he's going to go ahead and take his recall here for a purchase, as Busio will move into the bot side river, clear out some of this vision. Inspired also hanging around, farming Krugs up himself.
Massu with good control over this wave. Nice W connects, but an immediate trade back from Peyz. Both AD carries with very similar stories, but of course along different timelines. A big ultimate connects from Peyz. Dragon's still available. Canyon on the bot side of the map, likely ticking over to level 7. Oh, no, not quite enough experience. May set up for the objective, given the pressure that he has on bot. He could even be looking for a dive.
I think it's round 2 here, and this time there's Bwipo still having that teleport, so they do have to be careful about that. If they overcommit, the same play could happen.
1v1 in the mid lane, though. Quad firing back on Chovy, who has some quick side steps to get away from some of those Zeri Qs. Chovy still wants to keep it moving forward. Quad getting every little bit of extra HP he can there with the grass procs. Inspired, waiting around in the brush. This Skarner has not yet had a real meaningful impact on the game.
Yeah, Quad is trying to bait Chovy forward. If Chovy E's forward, Inspired will look for the play. But it looks like Chovy is just playing this too smart, too safe, and there's not going to be an opportunity. So now it is going to be about the grubs here. They rise in importance as we are going to see Gen.G claiming the first dragon, claiming the first 3 grubs. You definitely do not want to give 6 over, but Massu now with the Shiv completed, so strong at this point in the game, and it's going to be his turn to pay Bwipo back, to be able to have a big impact on some of these fights.
He's going to be making his way towards the top side of the map. Peyz going to be sticking around on bot, his base delayed. He does have an experience advantage over Massu, thanks to being able to push in that extra wave, which is not going to be caught by anyone. TP committed now, bot lane from Bwipo. He's not going to be able to get much of that farm, but a nice trade comes in from Quad, means that Chovy going to be delayed in terms of contest for the grubs. This means that FlyQuest should have advantage on this objective.
However, teleports are now unleashed, and Chovy does have his cooldown ready to fire. As soon as he gets back to the base, he could join the fight in that 4-second moment's notice. Massu clearing out the ward. Canyon and Lehends both making their way up to this topside river as well. Gen.G ready to commit for the second set of the grubs as Quad continues backing away from Peyz, and Bwipo wants to keep the bot lane pushing.
They're not going to contest. Bwipo has no TP. He actually did go down towards bot with that teleport, so they're just making the call. We give up the grubs. We trade for plates. And that is risky business, but if you can deny them from getting to those towers, then hey, it can really pay off, because the grubs are only potential power. If you're getting shoved in those lanes, they don't do a lot for you.
FlyQuest is hovering around the area here a little bit, but they are not going to go any further forward. Inspired and Busio's feet never touch water, as that's 6 grubs for Gen.G. Very nice early control over the objectives here for the LCK team.
I mean, I'm I am surprised that Inspired base there to complete his item rather than try and contest. But I guess the logic is, against Renekton this early on, it's not worth it. And given that Bwipo already TP'd to the bot side of the map, Renekton versus our double AD carries at this point in the game, no, we're good, we're fine. But conceding so many objectives in the early game is a dangerous thing to do against Gen.G.
It really is, right? And if they get access to those towers, they are going to punish you. Chovy's going to be playing heavily through sides on the Sylas, so that is a concern, as Bwipo will get jumped on, but should be able to walk it out. And I think the thing is for FlyQuest, their read is we outscale.
Bwipo gets tagged by the stolen ulti. Chovy going in, trying to get the execute threshold. Remember, it's 25%, but they don't do the damage in time despite the true shot barrage from Peyz making a connection there onto Bwipo. He had to use the flash to live, though.
Yeah, Bwipo will be pushed out. FlyQuest read again. If they think they outscale, they're just saying, you know what, we'll sit back. Yeah, you can have the grubs, but we're just going to keep farming on the double AD carry, and we'll get to a point where you can't contest us in the 5v5. The question is, was their read right? Because Gen.G does have some powerful scaling themselves, and of course are masters in that 5v5.
It's awkward lane assignments right now for FlyQuest. They've got Massu in the mid lane against Chovy with a 2-level discrepancy. They've sent Quad up to fight Kiin. It's Renekton, who is doing fine in the 1v1 because of how safe Zeri is, but Bwipo really needs to base, so a lot of the cover from FlyQuest has to go towards the bot side of the map to help them push out that wave. Now we've got Peyz and Lehends pushing in bot. You've got Massu pushing in mid. The risk is, though, because Kai'Sa's such short range that while you'd ideally love to be trading plates, it's a dangerous thing to do against a Sylas and a Sejuani.
The other thing I'm looking at here, we've got less than 1 minute now until the Herald spawns. FlyQuest having already given away the first 3 neutral objectives with that first Drake and all 6 grubs. How much are they really willing to give? You talk about grubs being a down payment, an investment, something that you have to make later actions for it to pay off. You're almost always going to get value from a Herald.
Exactly, and the grubs amp the power of the Herald. You drive it in, you have 6 grubs. You're going to get 12 Void Mites popping out of that thing. It's a clown car. And it feels like you get so much damage down on the tower every single time. FlyQuest are basing now. It is going to be a little bit late if they want to actually contest here. We'll see if they are going to be looking for it. You can see Quad has no teleport. He's just going back to base now. So again, I think they're just content to keep farming, keep playing it slow, maintain the status quo. And that is, for now, a 2.4k gold lead.
A Black Cleaver being finished on Bwipo is a nice spike, but no TP available on him. Rakan is making his way up, but Inspired, he sets his sights on the bottom camp, so your read is right, Azael. With the Stride Breaker finished for Quad, an item that I was not expecting.
I think it is tech because there's 4 melee champions on the other side, and I don't think we're going to get a fight here, but we'll see. They are peeking in to see if they can get a lucky steal. But when you're playing against these 4 melee champions, you do have that slow that you can apply if they are chasing in onto you. It makes it more difficult for them to actually stick onto him. It is pretty interesting, and he's going to be a lot tankier. It's 450 health, plus all the grass procs he's gotten. Maybe you can check how many he has, Betty.
And I also want to point out that we're talking about Bwipo hitting that Black Cleaver, the way that Bwipo has come back into the game. Hold on 1 second here. Bwipo did complete his call and then sell it off after to hit that power spike there to make sure that he could buy the Black Cleaver, be ready if they need to fight. You can see the gold in the top lane, despite the fact that we talked about Bwipo's self-sacrifice to enable the early double kill for Massu. The gold is now not even 100 apart, still favoring Kiin.
I mean, Quad has 2,400 health right now, so quite a lot. It's as much as Sylas, but you're playing an AD carry. So he's not going to be the easiest to burst down. I think he's going to be posturing aggressively, trying to utilize that extra health to be baiting them in onto him, to try to make them overcommit, and then to try to kite them out in the fight. We'll have to see if that is going to be able to work, but FlyQuest, again, they are masters of playing towards what they believe their win conditions are. If they think they outscale, it doesn't matter. You're not going to bait them into fights that they don't 100% believe they're going to win, because they're going to say, you know what? Sure, we might win this one. Maybe it's 55-45. But guess what? In 10 minutes, it's going to be 70-30, and we'll fight you then.
Well, the second Drake of the game goes FlyQuest's way, so they will not allow Gen.G to continue stacking towards a soul that critically is a Hex Soul. This always tops the rankings, all the tier lists of what matters the most. And when you have 2 AD carries, having a slowing Chain Lightning is going to be massive for kiting out these team fights. So FlyQuest working towards that. On the other side, though, Gen.G, it's also an amazing poke tool to have the Hex Soul, and you know Peyz will be delivering the Mystic shots.
Bwipo, crucially, secures first tower of the game. Remember that he was at a pretty massive deficit early on. He's been able to close the experience gap. He's significantly closed the gold gap, giving himself an advantage. And now FlyQuest are at a 3k gold lead.
Yeah.
Securing that second dragon did a lot, mainly because it just slows down Gen.G's ability to basically snowball the game. And we're getting closer to those fights where, as Dale and I already talked about it in the draft, it's an interesting situation where I have some concerns around FlyQuest's ability to gain access to the backline. However, both teams are going to be looking to play a front-to-back composition. And when you have 3 melees into double AD carry, that's a good situation for both an Urgot and the AD carries to be playing.
I mean, it's 4 melees into double AD carry, right? It gets
True.
even harder. And there's a black cleaver that Urgot purchased up, which I think is so smart. Shredding the armor for your AD carries, applying that to everyone. You also have to remember, you want to be pretty tanky here, but guess what? You're minus 20% HP because the Urgot ultimate. So I think what FlyQuest is going to do in every single fight is they're going to Urgot ultimate one person, hit that on the front line, try to get that kill, and then utilize the fear beyond death, that fear that comes out onto all these melee champions to buy space and take over the fight. That is going to be the key thing. And the question is, can FlyQuest get that first fight to set up for success in the rest of the 5v5?
Well, Gen.G is going to get their first turret of the game here in the bottom lane. Canyon came down to apply enough pressure to force Bwipo to step back so that Kiin is able to secure the turret. But now it's Kiin under pressure. FlyQuest going in for the fight. Bwipo will lead the charge as Inspired on the approach right next to Busio. Kiin doing a good job kiting these guys out for now, but his goal is only to buy time. There is no escape here for the Crocodile, and Quad gets the 4th kill for FlyQuest, but the trade in mid lane is there. It's the Rift Herald summoned up by Gen.G. They use it to force the tier 1 turret down, and Lehends drives it back into the tier 2. Now Inspired and Busio show up to force Lehends back, so ultimately Gen.G do close the gold gap despite FlyQuest getting the pick down in the bottom
TP
lane.
flank.
But a TP up in the top side now as Chovy could be in trouble. Bwipo moving in, still moving towards this guy, slows him down with a grenade, and now trying to get that extra little bit of space. Disdain with the flash! Bwipo finds Chovy, but where's the rest of the damage? Busio wants to go in, but he will not get his man. Inspired still hanging around here. Farsight trinket from Gen.G to stop the FlyQuest jungler. Canyon showing up, and another TP is coming in from Gen.G. Inspired is way too far forward, and surely he dies. Gen.G with a beautiful punch back.
An overstep from FlyQuest as Bwipo finds a great trade onto Chovy, but ultimately it's a net gain for Gen.G. They might even be looking for more as FlyQuest is forced to retreat. Sejuani ultimate is not available as it was used on the Skarner, but FlyQuest, they got a single pick onto Kiin in the bot lane. Gen.G got a tower top, a tower mid, and then got a kill back themselves. That 3k gold lead that FlyQuest had is now only 1,000.
Yep, and to make matters worse, not only was it the trade of flashes, I think the initial play from Bwipo is good, but Busio spent his flash and his ignite to try to follow up there. And then Inspired, when he sees the TP coming through, I think his idea is to try to time that ultimate maybe on the TP, but he mistimed it. He wasn't able to connect onto Chovy, wasn't able to get it on Kiin. So it's a swing and a miss, and that means they were always going to lose that fight. So FlyQuest do get a bit aggressive here and are punished for it. Gen.G, we saw this in game number 1 as well. You make a misstep, they will take the map and they will close that gold lead.
The way in which Gen.G play on their side lanes is, I mean, it's one of the best in the world. 50 seconds until the Dragon. They're going to have the push in mid, thanks to the fact that FlyQuest don't have that tower anymore. Chovy keeping pressure in bot, has a slight level advantage over Quad, which means that contesting this Dragon, maybe FlyQuest just say, we'll concede it, maybe look to cross-map that tier 1 tower in the top lane.
Yeah, FlyQuest also, you got to look at the item power spikes. Not fully completed second item for Quad yet compared to Chovy, who is at the mark. Down to the bottom lane, Chovy going in with the stolen lightning crash. Quad with a sidestep away from multiple ultis as Busio counterattacks with the quickness, but Gen.G still got more men. Inspired wants to go in and find some sort of an angle here for the ulti. He only gets Canyon. Another knockup, but the Gen.G jungler's way too tanky. Inspired's gonna die again if he's not careful as Kiin kills Bwipo down in the corner. Lehends still retreating. He's got the unbreakable, but how breakable is he? Massu goes to the rampage, and Chovy keeps running. Canyon regenerating with the Warmogs now, and that could be the difference. FlyQuest now feels the pressure. They've got to continue backing away. Kiin can't join because he doesn't have a teleport, but Gen.G's feeling confident.
It's good kiting there from Gen.G. Canyon has regen, and they couldn't get in on Peyz. He is chunked low, but so difficult to reach that Ezreal. Not going to be enough to kill Quad there. But narrowly, Quad was able to escape. They do turn around, they do get 1 kill, but at the end of the day, you commit a lot, you just kill Lehends. Gen.G will take the Dragon, and again, I think come out ahead.
there's not a lot of lockdown on the side of FlyQuest. Their overall crowd control is surprisingly limited, which means that in these extended fights where FlyQuest can keep hitting, there's worlds where they can win out on the fight, but trying to burst down that single target, they couldn't actually keep Canyon still enough for long enough to allow the AD carries to do the damage needed. Dragon secured there for Gen.G.
And now Bwipo has that second item, and this is one that has become synonymous with his gameplay. It is the Sterix. He plays so heavily around this. If you ever listen to FlyQuest comms, he talks all about the Sterix cooldown, about creating space with that, about buying time with that. Lehends?
Lehends in danger as Busio jumps over the wall to knock him up a little bit, but Lehends can easily just regroup with Chovy, right back over that terrain, get himself to safety.
And Massu is going to be going the AP route here. This is standard for what he plays. It is going to give them a lot more range, a lot more ability to poke and prod and harass back here. As we'll watch this fight one more time.
So we look back at the 1v1. Bwipo ended up getting outplayed, able to get the knock back, but it's kind of just two beefcakes slapping up against each other, and I believe that he'd already had the Sterix completed going into that fight. Oh no.
No, I think he got caught. I think he got caught before he had actually based.
Oh, sorry, I meant Kiin already had the Sterix.
Yes, Kiin did,
so
absolutely.
The shield advantage ended up giving him the advantage there. So just the animation difference allowing Kiin to win the 1v1.
Kiin also doing a great job playing around those shotgun knees, avoiding the extra angles. Bwipo is critically at the Urgot breakpoint. Remember that the cooldowns for each individual knee are at their lowest value once you hit level 13. It's 2.5 seconds per leg, so very easy to get those back up and have a lot of extra damage in these fights. 1,500 gold lead still for FlyQuest. Yes, Baron is on the map, but now we got to see the pressure here on Canyon as Busio's trying to lock him up, but he's just so damn tanky.
Yeah, and they're not going to overcommit to chasing him in. You can see critical item now completed as well there for Busio. Has the Mikhails, and the Mikhails is going to be a big deal when you look over and you think, okay, what is the main engage? It's really Canyon looking for an ulti here, as Kiin may go in, but Massu is close enough. He could get back down here.
Yeah, if Bwipo can stop Kiin, okay, I was going to say if Massu gets close enough for a plasma mark, you Killer Instinct in, all of a sudden it becomes a 2v1, but it ain't going to happen. Kiin knows better.
Peyz. There's a 1.2k gold difference between the AD carries, but in terms of itemization, they're pretty much even. A little bit more AP damage is going to come through from Massu, but it's a scary spot for this Ezreal. Once he completes the Shojin, his Q basically doesn't have a cooldown anymore.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's basically
if
playing
it's on your team. Not as funny when it's on the other team.
Yeah, enemy team, it becomes very, very threatening. Well, you guys talked a little bit about, we've seen the LPL AD carry performances here so far at Worlds, and just the damage charts at the end of the fights, once Ezreal hits these power spikes, it's incredible. He's always the largest bar on that graph.
Exactly. I mean, when these Ezreals are positioning really well, using the shift perfectly, getting that bonus damage in, as they're going to look for a pick on Bwipo. If he goes forward, he's probably dead.
Yeah, Bwipo's in some danger here, flashing out, but Kiin's ready to flash follow. Bwipo getting stunned up, chain CC'd by Canyon there with a Glacial Prison. Bwipo's buying a lot of time, but it ain't enough. Sterix Gauge won't keep him alive in that one. And Quad's here, but now he's got to be a little bit careful himself. Tries to throw the zap over to continue getting a little bit more slows. Massu just barely not going to land the Void Seeker. It expires at the very tip of the range. +1 for Gen.G.
Pretty surprised that Quad even TP'd there because it was so late on the play. Maybe he was too close to Silas and had to actually back off before the TP could get interrupted or something like that. I didn't actually see on the minimap, but very late TP. Massu was close to actually connecting with that W, and if he had, maybe they pile in and try to actually get that kill, but Bwipo getting punished in the side lanes here has been a problem for him at times.
Kiin level 16 now, the highest level in the game. This Renekton is going to be an incredibly difficult front line to have to deal with. FlyQuest, you're seeing how they're conceding a lot more on the map. These objectives are getting harder to contest. Gen.G are doing a good job of manipulating the side waves once again. Chovy has the push in top once more. They still hold on to their mid and top tower. And FlyQuest, it feels like the pressure is continuing to mount.
Back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of the game when FlyQuest got that double kill in the bot lane.
Canyon's behind him.
Canyon coming in. Gen.G making their move. Inspired's going to be the target here, but he tries to force the enemy front line back. The Skarner's locked up in the front. He's going to get beat down. The Sterix ain't going to matter yet. Again, he drags two back. Into the back line goes Chovy. Inspired flashing away to barely stay alive, but now Bwipo's going to be in danger as well. The first kill is going over to the stolen ulti, and Chovy puts Bwipo in the grinder. Now Peyz got to be careful. There goes your Void Seeker. Peyz still getting away for now. Massu trying to fire a few more of these off. Quad and the rest of FlyQuest trying to get at least a little bit of mid lane pressure here. They're down a man. They got to be careful as they continue retreating. Inspired went back to the base to heal, but now Massu's got to be careful. There's your use of that cleanse from the McHales as again Gen.G continue the chase, but Massu's unstoppable. Lehends went in too far. Zap shoots out of the wall, and Kiin's got to be careful. So much pressure, but it's not enough. Massu cuts them down. Oh, ye of little faith. Believe in Massu on the AD carry. Chovy still trying to escape. He dashes back over the wall, and FlyQuest take a huge fight.
And they're going to go to the Baron Flowers. They're going to go straight for it here. Bwipo is chasing for the kill. He has his ulti up in a second. He'll see if he can find Chovy, but it's Massu, the Canadian sniper, stepping up and getting the triple.
And Bwipo even finds Chovy. He damages him with the grenade over the wall. Chovy's death is going to be certain. It is going to be delayed, and FlyQuest just found their moment.
It felt like FlyQuest didn't have the damage to win the fight, but Gen.G kept going. They forced the fight, they kept chasing after, and it was at this point, Inspired, thanks to the Hex Gate, rejoins the fray. Lehends flashes forward, the front line reappears, and now FlyQuest can play the front to back.
And Massu, look at this, E forward, going in biz, flashing forward, getting a second kill, picks the perfect targets, gets into the back line, playing with the confidence. It's Massu taking over the fight against Gen.G.
Bwipo just loving it. You can even see some surprise there on his face, not even believing what's going on for this team now. As the Drake is alive, FlyQuest is going to take this one without a contest to tie these up at 2-2, and they've got the Baron for another 2 minutes.
I mean, you see now why they have so much faith in Massu, why they put the resources into him, why Bwipo is willing to give up his lane to TP bot to protect this guy, because he can step up when it matters most. He can carry the game.
7-0-1 with a 700 gold bounty on Massu. Ginsu's, Nashor's, Static Shiv, and an unbroken armband. He has all the tools he needs, and his team is ready to play around him.
Gen.G uncharacteristically prioritized the fights and the kills over the objectives. Dragon, during that fight, was about 30 seconds off, and they chased with nothing left. No ultis, all the engaged tools were gone. They invested everything to get that kill onto Inspired, and they paid the price. Now Inspired looking once again.
Inspired's got to be careful here. Remember, this is the same spot of the map that he overextended previously, and it cost FlyQuest. But now, the state of the game is very different. It is a 5,500 gold lead for North America's #1 seed. It is a 5-man push through the top lane towards the tier 2. Kiin waiting on the flank, but Busio's marking him, making sure the Renekton does not have a path into the carries of FlyQuest. Quad, 3-item power spike now as well, with his Blade of the Ruin King completed on the Zeri. FlyQuest push continues as Canyon, Peyz, and Lehends will back away from the tier 2, while Chovy takes a tier 2 over in the mid lane. Gen.G is applying split pressure. They're making FlyQuest answer Chovy as they continue pushing down the top lane. 4 turrets to 4.
It is unbelievable that once again, FlyQuest, a team that no one had any expectations of, are forcing these gods from the LCK to have to take a knee. The pressure that they are exerting, the team fighting that they are demonstrating, they are going toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the world. 6K is the gold lead. The Baron will wear off. And now we return to a state where FlyQuest must find one more fight, and if they can, they will bring Gen.G to match point.
Interestingly enough, look at those timers in the top corners of your screen. Nearly identical for the next Drake and the next Baron. FlyQuest have lost their Baron power for now, so Gen.G will be able to much more easily clear these waves. Look at Kiin, split pushing up in the top lane. That tier 2 turret is barely standing on FlyQuest's side, so he'll almost certainly be able to knock this one down. You're already seeing the early recall coming out from Bwipo, and now a TP onto the last remaining cannon minion as FlyQuest is sending more men to approach from the side. Inspired should be the first one there, as Bwipo should make it so that Kiin cannot find an escape. He tries to run into the alcove, but a nice use of the Scryer's trinket to make it so Kiin doesn't doesn't have a chance to teleport away in time. Massu waiting on the tanks to lead the way first, and immediately Inspire just slams Kiin right back into the wall. They put the money where the money belongs, and Massu gets kill number 8.
Massu grabs another kill. This one only cost them the teleport here. Thankfully for Kiin, he didn't use flash, didn't use teleport, no big waste of resources there. But it's going to come down to these next fights here, and Gen.G is up against it.
6K, sorry. The gold lead for FlyQuest now. A minute and a half until both neutral objectives spawn. A nice pick found by FlyQuest, but not really going to convert into much for either side outside of another kill. The Void Staff finish from Massu means that his poke from the W is going to be that much more scary. And it's a valuable tool at the start of these fights because you've only mainly been seeing like the all-ins, but now poke from the Ezreal, poke from the Kai'Sa is going to be crucial to how these fights kick off.
Absolutely, and when you look over at the Gen.G frontliners, they don't look all that tanky. It's double Locket, it's a Warmogs. Yes, that is great if it's going to be poke, but in an extended fight, in a committed fight against double AD carries with this Black Cleaver from Bwipo amping them, you are not going to be able to stand up that long.
FlyQuest, 5-man push here in the bottom lane. Tier 2 turret in their sights, and Gen.G nowhere to be found. Fly, knock it down, and extend the gold lead to 7,500. 45 seconds on the timers for Baron and Dragon both, as Lehends steps forward and tries to get the smallest amounts of vision for Gen.G inside their own blue side jungle. Massu going to continue poking with these Void Seekers. Once it gets to an objective standoff, Canyon will need to be the one to eat those. He's the one with the Warmogs. He's the one who can shrug it off. FlyQuest now moving back into mid, getting this wave shoved up, wanting to make sure that Gen.G are always on the defense.
The clock ticks down. We take a moment to breathe. We'll give Flowers that opportunity to get his breath ready as we build closer to that ever-important fight. They both take placement in the mid-wave. They contest, and here we go.
With the flash disdain, Canyon's going to be your target here in the front, but a nice counter-attack coming out from Chovy. Beautiful stolen Skarner ulti. Isn't enough? Massu's low. Killer Instinct to give him the shield to try to stay alive as Kiin dives into the back line, and Bwipo's already going to be killed. Top for top, 1 for 1. Massu, legendary, but FlyQuest bleeding.
Yeah, and Massu has no resources here. Are they even going to try to stay around? He's got no summoners. They got to go back to base. Gen.G win the fight off the back of that Chovy ultimate. Inspired tried to get one of his own, but it was only on Lehends. It's Chovy who makes the difference.
Chovy stepping up when Gen.G need him. To win a fight down 7,000 gold is absolutely insane. Gen.G secure soul point.
Quad pushing out mid here is going to be able to get this tier 2, so the gold lead does extend, but soul point for Gen.G with the most powerful soul in the game. FlyQuest tried to go aggressive on that play, but Chovy shutting them down with the big 2-man ulti really made it difficult.
This is a great opportunity. I mean, good awareness from Gen.G. They realize that they haven't actually committed to a base yet. Kiin is still at death timer, and Chovy hasn't reset, so there's a window where FlyQuest can actually force the Baron, but they choose not to. Let's look back at this fight. It starts off with an initiation from Bwipo, who flashes in to get the knockback. He connects onto the front line. The way in which Gen.G want to play this, Peyz dishing out good damage, and it's just that front-to-back team fight. But a huge ultimate comes in from Chovy to split the fight up, giving Kiin access onto the back line. And while Bwipo is left isolated, the same is said for Kiin.
All right, we're back into it. Lehends trying to get away now. Inspired wanted the Impale, but Peyz was close enough so Lehends could jump to safety. The Braum, however, down to 1/3 HP. There is no Warmogs on this Gen.G support, so FlyQuest will, if nothing else, have control over the topside river to secure vision for the Baron.
Massu now on true 6 items here. FlyQuest starting up the Baron.
TP coming in from Gen.G. True Shot Barrage flies out from Peyz. Only hits Inspired. Baron down to 60%. Kiin is on the flank, and FlyQuest do not know. They've got to be careful about this one as they continue DPS here with the Baron. Canyon and Kiin going to step up. Massu's already under pressure, and immediately Busio is about to die. Kiin's going to get bursted down to the front line on the other side, and Massu stays alive. He's still firing, still fighting. Quad pushes forward. Goes to the killing spree. 4 versus 3, but Peyz fights back. A beautiful shutdown over the Ezreal as Bwipo jumps into the disdain. Peyz goes into the stratosphere, and Massu goes legendary. FlyQuest just killed everybody but Canyon. They're back with the Baron.
FlyQuest has knocked Gen.G to their knees. David is beating Goliath.
An impressive fight once again comes through from FlyQuest. as they dance with the dangerous Baron, but they succeed and come out on top.
This Zhonya's from Massu was insane. Everything went wrong for him at the start of this fight. He has no vision on Kiin around the corner here. Look at the reaction time to get the Zhonya's off. When he has no cleanse, he's able to get it off. They stun him up, and then he ults to reposition. If he doesn't get that Zhonya's, he is stunned. He is dead to start the fight. Gen.G win. Gen.G take the Baron. Gen.G take the game.
Such a crucial difference in the target focus. Had both Peyz and Chovy were focusing Busio, whereas the rest of FlyQuest turned their attention to the top side. Bwipo connects the knockback, sends Peyz to space, brings him back down to reality, where the rest of FlyQuest are ready to send him back to base.
And you can see the look on Busio's face. That has to be the stress of that play where he was exploded at the very beginning. Bwipo, pure joy, the love of League of Legends, the love of competition as FlyQuest with a 5-man push. Now in the bottom lane, trying to crack the base of Gen.G. Kiin and Chovy on the side. Chovy with the stolen Rakan ulti, look for the quickness as Busio jumps in. Turret's already down. FlyQuest forcing the issue, but a true shot barrage over the top of 4 is going to try to hold the line for Gen.G. They continue backing away. FlyQuest took a couple of hits, but they claim the inhibitor.
Gen.G are not just bleeding, they are falling apart as FlyQuest, with a 10k gold lead here in Game 3, are resetting to set up for the Dragon. A minute's time. Still a minute left on the Baron. They can still do good damage, but an unbelievable performance. What was meant to be a 3-0, a quick day for Gen.G, is turning into an incredible turnaround upset for FlyQuest.
It's just a brilliant performance from the entire team, but it is not a win just yet. The Nexus must fall, and they have to prevent Gen.G from turning this game around by getting Soul, by getting into a better position.
All eyes on Chovy for the Gen.G fans. Remember, when Gen.G won the fight in mid lane, it was Chovy's stolen Skarner ultimate that made it happen when they were 7,000 gold behind. Now, at a 10,000 gold deficit, they're gonna need something even greater. True shot barrage with no results this time. Chovy eating a little bit of damage as Inspired moves forward, and the second inhibitor will fall. 30 seconds left on this Baron timer. 15 seconds until the Drake spawns, and FlyQuest will move in position to bring this game to 3 Drakes to 3.
And look at the map. There's no vision at all for Gen.G. They have no way to contest this whatsoever. They can't get out there, so they're going to have to give up this Dragon here, give up their shot at the Soul for now, and hope that they can hold the line in their base. But FlyQuest crossing the T's, dotting the I's, getting everything they want to try to close out this game.
The circumstances of the fight are a matter of which frontline falls first. In the previous fight, we saw the target focus being thrown onto Busio. The Silas ultimate, Ezreal's damage, a lot of it thrown onto this Rakan, who was happy to lose his life so that on the other side, Kiin was being shut down. In this battle of front to back, Azel was talking about all that matters is which frontline falls first. And when you have double AD carries with an Urgot on top of that, it just becomes a matter of time before these double AD carries start to win out.
And that's why Gen.G have to play so perfectly around cooldowns, so perfectly about that E from the Braum to utilize these spells, to buy time, to buy space. Because if you just run straight in and you fight to the death, FlyQuest wins every single time. Gen.G have to outsmart, have to outplay if they are to come back in this game.
It's double Sterix, double unending despair on the 2 meatballs for FlyQuest. They are built to just endure forever.
And it's 4 melee. So when you have these items here that give you that drain tank, it can be so much healing in a long fight with the unending despair. 4 melee champions around you, you absorb all of that extra life, you become so much more difficult to knock down.
The path to get here for FlyQuest was one of great debate.
Yes, sir.
Did they deserve to be in the quarterfinals, knocking out a brother-in-arms to qualify for the top 8? It was, I mean, Azel, you talked about it on the desk. It's frustrating because people are always going to have that caveat. Oh, they made top 8, but they didn't beat anyone really to get there. Well, this There is no room for question here. This has been nothing but a spectacular performance from FlyQuest. And regardless of the results of today's series, North America should stand proud as FlyQuest have upset the apple cart and done what no one thought they could.
Absolutely. And when you think about the fact that they pushed HLE to the brink as well, almost able to take that best of 3, it becomes that much more impressive. FlyQuest now trying to close in on this final inhibitor. You can see Supers coming in bot, Supers coming in mid. That is going to be the moment where FlyQuest can try to pounce.
There's 1 minute left until the bot lane inhibitor respawns. 2 left on the mid lane inhibitor timer. Tons of damage from Peyz onto Inspired. The Mystic shots bringing him low as Bwipo buffers through some of the CC. Mikhail's to try to get him further back. Gen.G doing a great job forcing FlyQuest away. Bwipo barely getting away from that last Mystic shot that would have triggered another Winter's Bite and could have potentially allowed Gen.G to chase further.
They do get the teleport though from Chovy critically, so now they go back, they regen up, and it's going to get harder.
That's 3 ultis gone. Canyon ulti, Peyz ulti, Lehends ulti. The TP comes back in. FlyQuest are ready to fight.
FlyQuest keeping it going. 3rd inhibitor turret under pressure. The wave is being cleared out as the super minions pressure the bottom lane and the mid lane together. FlyQuest backing away. The Baron spawns in 5 seconds.
Exactly, and they're just going to go right in onto the Baron. Their Supers still moving up mid lane here. It's going to get very difficult. FlyQuest can just 2-man this while the rest of them look to block out Gen.G from responding.
Massu does a ton of damage to this objective all by his lonesome. Canyon would lead the charge for Gen.G. Chovy has lost a good chunk of HP here in the approach. The FlyQuest squad just trying to buy a little bit of time to secure the Baron, but Bwipo might die. Quad going in for the lightning crash. Gen.G are dying. FlyQuest have already killed everybody. FlyQuest will push Gen.G to the absolute limit. They will take a 2-1 lead.
It's Quad with the Quadra. FlyQuest march on the Nexus.
The first Nexus turret, the second Nexus turret, the Nexus itself will all fall to pieces. FlyQuest are 1 game away from semifinals.
Where were you when FlyQuest pushed Gen.G to the brink?
Wow! Desk! Have at it!
Unbelievable!
Yes!
We are right here! We're watching it! I can't believe it!
Do you know how big this upset will be if it happens? This is the biggest upset ever!
It's already amazing. The fact that they've already won 2. We consider they're 46-3 on the year. They've only lost twice to KT, once to HLE. That's it.
In my 12 years, I've actually never seen anything like this. This is unbelievable by FlyQuest. They're on match point.
But we're not there yet.
No.
Teams have been close to big upsets before. It is not complete yet. I want to take a moment to talk about Massu.
Okay.
Because Massu has a very long career ahead of him. That was a magnificent Kai'Sa performance. He got so fed so early on, and the confidence he had to play at 19 years old on the world stage, his first Worlds, the same year he had his first MSI. This is a kid that has such a bright future ahead of him. Key in the double AD carry comp here for FlyQuest.
11 kill, deathless Kai'Sa. I think the FlyQuest drafts continue to be innovative, even though the Urgot didn't look good early, it got good late. Look at these accolades already from such a young player. And by the way, FlyQuest was the youngest team in World Swiss, okay? So they're already hitting these extreme levels despite being such a young team.
I mean, I haven't seen a Kai'Sa deliver a shellacking for a rookie like that before since like 2018 Jackie Love when he won Worlds. This is such an insane performance from Massu. He's playing out of his mind at the moment.
It's crazy, and I know we want to talk about FlyQuest only, right? And I want to as well, but I do want to take the Gen.G perspective for just a second, right?
Yeah.
Because last year at the World Championship, they went undefeated in the Swiss stage and they got knocked out, right?
Yes.
When nobody expected them in the quarterfinals. Peyz, although he escaped the flame there, has sometimes been said that he wasn't stepping up. The finals is a good example in LCK. Like, their mental is wobbling.
And Shocks, I was memeing on Thursday when we talked about biggest storylines at Worlds because the storyline for Chovy, his whole career is he's the greatest player to not accomplish X. It used to be greatest player to not win the LCK. He won 4. Greatest player to not internationally. He won at MSI. And then I kind of did a shitpost and said, now he's greatest player to still not win Worlds as FlyQuest beats him, and it's actually possible that it could happen here. So the nerves are actually very real for Chovy right now.
FlyQuest, it's not a shitpost anymore, baby.
Oh,
Narrow
my
match
gosh.
point. Let's bring it back a little bit to the beginning of this game.
I'm sorry for
where
swearing. It's just the adrenaline.
I did it as well because we're brothers in arms, you know, so they can't punish us both, right? Thanks to the reliable Cisco network, it was Massu who was able to grab a double kill. And when we look at this, I do want to look at kind of the decision-making also on the side of Gen.G after their initial dive.
Yeah, I mean, look, they tried to get this play, but it was a great TP coming through from Bwipo to cover this. He was actually going for that push onto the tier 2 on top, like, to get some of the creeps, but here, he steps forward. Peyz thinks he has that opportunity, but he arcane shifts into all members of Fly, and Bwipo's not in range. And then even burning the barrier here means that Massu picks up the double kill off of the Q, and it's a great start for him that sets him up to be the carry in this game.
They protect their teammates. They step up in front of him and they take those kills, and then they snowball with it. You know, it's not just getting some early money there.
And we gotta say also, right, the draft came out and we were like, Theory, I'm not sure.
I wasn't sure.
You're giving the ult to the Silas, so, I mean, what do we say now? We shut up, I guess.
I guess. I mean, I thought this was, to me, like the least cooking draft from FlyQuest, but they ended up punishing the Quadra Melee so well, and I think a lot of it probably is those early kills to Massu. Like, he just never let that lead go away, so he was always stronger in front-to-back fights.
I do really like the build from Quad, though. Going for the Stride Breaker, you get that AoE, but you also get a big slow for a lot of those dives that are trying to get in onto Massu. Then you get the Runins, there's more AoE, and a Blade of the Rune King to add even further slows. It meant that you have so much that just keeps this melee tank kind of front line in check from Gen.G, and works out perfectly for keeping this Kai'Sa safe.
And when it comes to kind of the Baron fight, where we were super, super impressed by a lot of things, right? We had the Bwipo flip, because this felt like the whole time, like still a game that they could lose if Gen.G made some magic, right?
It always did. I'm trying to cast my mind back because there were so many incredibly close fights, and this is where it was actually looking really scary here. But notice how Massu just kites out the back of these fights so often. Bwipo gets caught here. They end up losing him, but FlyQuest never really lost their heads throughout this whole sequence.
Yeah, I think the crucial part of some of these fights was, can Kiin get access to Massu? Because you've got the stone, you've got that removal of the shield, but so often he just can't get through. And as they go through into this area, they've actually bought enough time now for the Skarner to come back in, and even Massu getting in towards the back line, then using that little old forward here just to get himself into position to follow up, finish off the back line, flashing forward with Quad, dealing that AoE in such a small corridor. It was a perfect turnaround from FlyQuest on all that time they'd bought.
Yeah, I meant it was another one, because you know what, FlyQuest just did a lot of impressive things, and I think the fact that they have the presence of mind, because we always say it's the LCK teams, it's the LPL teams that have the presence of minds in these team fights, playing them out. But it's FlyQuest, they're outplaying them.
It is, and they showed a lot of confidence and calmness in this game. But I'm also going to say I'm quite scared of Game 4 and weirdly less scared of Game 5 because of the way we saw Game 1 and 2 play out. Game 1, FlyQuest shocked everybody. Game 2, I think they had a little bit too much adrenaline in their system, overdove a little bit early, lost control. This game they played much more controlled, but just based off of the way I feel, with how good it feels to have them win against Gen.G, I can imagine how much they have to calm down to play at the max level before Game 4.
And although they got the win in Game 1 on red side, you can see there Gen.G selects blue side. I think this is going to be crucial, where I think Gen.G will be able to go back towards, hey, we can drop Aurora, we can look for a little bit more flexibility in the bans, we can set up for an Ashe first pick, we can go back to our style, and then it becomes, well, can Gen.G break that on red side, or what's about to happen?
It's crazy. We thought when the brick got taken out of the Golden Road, we thought it was going to end there. It was just going to be that. FlyQuest is looking to take out the entire road for Gen.G. And for the side of FlyQuest, like, I cannot even imagine how insanely you're going to flip out and you're going to flip out if it was to happen. How did they
You've been pretty quiet, Chovy.
But I actually want to look at those cams that we just had on the FlyQuest members. Did you see Massu? He was locked in, focused. Nobody's shaking over there. Everybody's focused. They're talking about the strategy for the next game. They are not freaking out like we are freaking out.
It's good.
FlyQuest do believe. They believe in themselves
that they're better
to be able to pull it out.
Do we need it?
No, but like we used it.
It's used up.
I'm already maxed
You know
out.
what?
Right? This thing's empty. I can't
think
wait.
it's LCK fans who
Does
actually
Gen.G
need
wait,
a little
does
bit of
Gen.G
this.
need this?
A little bit of copium right now.
Should I run this
for the
down to
LCK
them?
fans.
I would. I would. Okay, tell me then. FlyQuest again on red. What's the killing blow? You
We
can't.
can't spoil their spice, okay?
It's true.
There's more spice to come. We know.
All right.
They've been talking so much. They have so many deep picks that they haven't shown.
All right, and they're cutting me off also from production. I can't give any of the secrets. It's FlyQuest on match point, and we'll be right back.
Too good.
This is necessary. Beneath my blade. No power in this world can stop me.
Red Bull gives you wings.